My name is Angie, and I was diagnosed when I was 24. And alongside my autism diagnosis, I have ADHD, generalised anxiety disorder, and pathological demand avoidance, or PDA.
Hi, my name is Brandy Haberer, and I am 40 years old, and I found out that I was autistic a year and a half ago when I was 38.
My name is Lisa Ann Hommel. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a retired licensed clinical social worker, but I'm also an openly autistic woman, and I'm very late diagnosed. I was diagnosed at the age of 51 and was also found to be ADHD inattentive type.
Hi, I'm Tash. I'm 46 years old now, and I was diagnosed with autism 1 year ago at the age of 45.
My name is Kirsten Perrins. I am 36 years old now, and I was diagnosed 4 years ago when I was 32.
Hi, my name is Isha Kuhns. I'm 33 years old. I was 31 years old when I was finally diagnosed as autistic.
Hi, my name is Tannesha. I was 10 years old when I was diagnosed with autism. I also have anxiety and depression.
Co-occurring conditions that I have are ADHD, social anxiety disorder, and I've struggled with depression on and off. Also, a lot of autistic people have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I have that and a lot of co-occurring conditions that come along with that as well.
I have also got anxiety and depression, and I've had anxiety and depression for most of my life. And particularly in my 20s, I had some quite severe anxiety disorders, so agoraphobia, some generalised anxiety, and also panic disorder. And in my 30s and 40s, I've had issues more with depression, with postnatal depression, and then more recently just common garden, moderate to severe depression.
Prior to my autism diagnosis, I had been diagnosed with social anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and gone through at least a handful of bouts of serious depression. I also have ADHD.
I also have sensory processing disorder. I have anxiety, and in the past I have had depression.
I have anxiety about a lot of things. I sometimes catastrophize things or can diagram certain ways of getting out of stressful situations before they even happen. And sometimes that is a lot cognitively to deal with when you're trying to just enjoy, say, a dinner out with friends.
I find it very difficult to get through the week. And by that I mean that I might get to Wednesday or Thursday and I've got no more energy left for the rest of the week. That can be really challenging, trying to fit in and mask, in a grown-up job.
My depression and anxiety can make me very tired. There are days when I struggle to get out of bed and days when I can barely concentrate because of how tired I seem to be.
I did a lot of cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT, when I was in my 20s and having a lot of problems with anxiety. And it really was very, very helpful in many ways. And in particular, it really helped me to reframe some of my more extreme thoughts. So, for example, having an anxiety attack, I might think, I'm going to die, I'm going to have a heart attack. And CBT techniques will teach you, actually, this is just a physical sensation. It's because I'm anxious and I need to wait it out, breathe deeply, get to a quiet place and ride the whole thing out, and these feelings will pass.
I listen to my body and I take appropriate rest days, weekends, if that's what I need. And so whilst everybody around me might be spending their Saturdays and Sundays going out and playing sport or getting together with people, I have what I call wombat days, where I will sit in my pajamas and maybe my TARDIS onesie, and I will read books, or I might watch some cartoons on TV, and just do things that make me feel happy and really don't require too much sensory interaction with other people. I also find that spending time with my 3 dogs really helps my mental health. And I'm very, very lucky that my psychologist also uses animals in her therapy. So I get the best of both worlds there.
Therapy and more therapy. I've also learned that with panic attacks, tapping is something that really helped for me. EFT tapping, like through here, it kind of helps. Breathing, meditation, and certain techniques that my therapist and I do to help process things like past trauma through EMDR therapy. Another strategy for dealing with my mental health that I've just found incredibly helpful, and it's not a particular therapy or technique, it's more just thinking about what skills do I need to live a good life. And so for me, sometimes I can get very, very down about the difficulties I have with just running and maintaining a home, staying organised, managing impulses, all of those kinds of things. And so I think just learning to take a long-term view of whatever state I might be in, and just thinking, okay, what are some small things that I can start changing that will really improve my life and my capacity further down the track. And so I think particularly when you have problems with your executive function, you can have these times where you just think, man, I can't manage my money, I can't manage my house, I can't manage anything. And I've found just skilling myself up in those areas has really been positive for my confidence and also for my mental health.
I had asked my therapist, my psychiatrist, so I seem to always have a new crisis of the week. What do I do to fix this so that I can run my even baseline? And she just looked at me and said, maybe that is your baseline. And maybe that's okay.
A strategy I use to help my mental health is writing lists. Lists for getting tasks done, lists of things to do in a day, grocery lists, packing lists, lists of all the lists I have. The structure of lists help me to keep track of where I'm up to, and I can see what I still have left. Crossing items off also helps me to feel accomplished.
Be kind to yourself. You will probably take on too much. You will at times not be able to fulfill those commitments. And that's okay.
To stop being perfect, stop trying to be perfect, and just be yourself. And then those people that are like you will gravitate toward you, and you will attract the type of people that are your people. And that's something that took a long time for me to realize.
At school, hardly anyone, if anyone, knew that I was on the spectrum. I hid it very, very, very well from what I remember. And still some people don't know now. It impacted my mental health back then with just doubting who I was, doubting myself all the time, and not being able to express myself in any way or form. To these days, I still struggle with expressing myself to other people, especially people who are very close to me in my life.
I didn't realise that's what I was doing. I had no idea what autism was back in the 1990s. It was a totally different time, and I grew up in the UK, as you can probably tell from the accent. So very, very different. when I look back on it now, I think I masked by overcompensating. So I was involved in a lot of music and a lot of drama, and I would be really keen to get on the stage and, get involved in plays or perform at concerts or sing solos. And I think that was my way of kind of going too far the other way, and essentially pretending to be something that I wasn't. And in pretending to be something that I wasn't, I fit in a little bit more. What I now realize as an adult, probably when I hit my early 20s, I'd run out of juice. There was nothing left in the battery. I had what neurotypicals might call a nervous breakdown in my late 20s. We now know that's what we call autistic burnout. I was just nothing left. I'd masked for so long that I was just, my whole body was exhausted. And so now, as I said in my previous answer, I find it really important to consider my energy levels and be as authentic as possible, and that it's okay to be myself and have quiet time and not have to put on this act or gregariousness, which essentially isn't me.
Something I've always done naturally confused me even before I knew I was autistic. I would go to school for a whole day and behave in a way that was standard to society. But then I'd come home and found myself needing to chew and stim, run around and always move and let out all this energy I now know I held back at school. I never understood why I was almost two different people. As I reached the end of high school, that period of getting home led to depressive episodes, and I realised I even masked my depression while at school and around family. Little did I know how dangerous it would become, leading to self-harm and suicide attempts. Once I finished school and the stress of needing to mask all the time dropped, I began working split shifts, where I was able to stim in between work and not mask for as long, which led to better mental health and less burnout. I'm now able to acknowledge days where I mask all day and realise when I start becoming burnt out and when I need to take a step back and take a few days off.
I basically saw how I was ostracized and made fun of and bullied when I was in elementary school. And so by the time I hit middle school, high school, I learned how to be like the people who were liked. And it was a lot cognitively on me to pretend every single day. So sometimes I would get home and I would have a meltdown, or I would lash out at my family, and it was really hard to keep up the facade. I couldn't do it all the time. Basically, I would study how people acted that made them be liked, and then I would act like that. And I lost myself because 40 years later, I had no idea who I was as a person. I had no personality of my own. And my autism diagnosis helped me realize that I need to stop trying to be like everyone else, and I need to just be me. And that's going to be different. And that's okay, because different isn't bad. Different isn't any less. And so because of that, I did kind of gravitate out of some of the circles that I was in. I lost some friendships. I lost some family members because I no longer, just went along with what everyone wanted me to do and wanted me to be. And I started being myself. And honestly, it was worth everything that I had to go through to find me. And I'm still working on that every single day. But yeah, it impacted me a lot.
I want you to tell yourself that you are loved. I want you to tell yourself that you're special. And I want you to tell yourself that it's not your fault. And that self-talk is key to helping you through any mental health problem, crisis. It's really, really hard. I would encourage you to write those things down and read them. It's not easy, but it does get better, and with the right support, you will recover, if you want to use that terminology. You can deal with this, and you can live a really wonderfully fulfilling life.
To really seek out friends who just love me for me, Often they're friends who would also identify as being neurodiverse, and we can have really great conversations without a whole lot of effort. And those people are gold, and really just looking for those people, finding them. And I have to say that being a part of Yellow Ladybugs has been absolutely amazing, not just for my daughter, but also for me, in that every month that I go, I find it's some of the easiest conversations that I have. And it's because so many of the other parents are also neurodiverse. It's not just that we have daughters who are autistic, it's that often we think in similar ways.
My advice would be to have a good team of people around you who, whether they be friends or professionals, who understands you, who's going to listen to you, and who is going to help you when you need help. And if they're friends, you help them when they need help. It's vice versa.
Show yourself the same kindness that you show other people, because that's something that I didn't do for a long time. And when I started doing that, and I started trying to do that, it made a huge difference. And there are days that it's really hard, but I just try every day to be kind to myself. And if I need to rest. Don't hold yourself to this standard of someone who doesn't deal with the things that you deal with, because you're different. And when I stopped comparing myself to people who were not disabled, I started being a lot kinder to myself.
You're not alone. It may feel like that, but you're not. Your tribe is out there. You just haven't found them yet. I found being on social media around people who didn't know who I am helped me a lot, and I still find comfort in that now. Step out of your comfort zone and try and find your community. Ask friends to go with you, talk to someone who'll be running the event, take anything and everything you will need to feel comfortable. Once you go and you find where you fit in, you will thank yourself. You will find your community.
It's important to be forgiving. Students that are struggling in this way may be late to class. They may miss assignment deadlines. They may be afraid to ask for help.
Teachers don't want you to listen. I don't want you to think that you know what that student is going through. I want you to listen to them, and I want you to empathise with them. It doesn't do anybody any good for you to come in with your preconceived ideas. You have no idea what that child is going through. What you only see what they're presenting you at school. That is really no reflection of what their reality is. So just listen.
Is that we're not doing it for attention. I was accused of self-harming for attention so many times within the school setting. Even if the comment wasn't directed at me, the general comment of it felt like it may as well have been. Self-harm for me was a way to control a situation during times I had no control over anything else. I didn't self-harm because I wanted to. I self-harmed because at the time it was the only thing I could control that kept me alive.
That we are trying. We are trying, and we are doing the best that we can. And it may not look like that sometimes. If you don't understand anxiety and depression, then you may not see or understand how we feel on the inside. But just know that those students are trying the best that they can. And if it doesn't look like they are that day, you have no idea what they're going through on the inside. So just try to be more compassionate and understanding to those students.
First of all, let me say thank you, because that's so important. It's so hard with classroom management and all of your responsibilities to take that next level. But when you do, it's critical to realize that the kids don't want you to know that they have mental health challenges. Teenagers right off the bat are already excellent maskers. Now add to that a kid who has mental health issues that in any way are hideable. There are types of ADHD that don't show. Mine didn't. OCD, autistic high masking, even depression and anxiety. They don't want to feel different. They don't want to be different. They're already feeling like such a failure. and they don't want you to know that. And you may not be able to fix that. You may not be able to help support them in getting a diagnosis, particularly with autistic girls, because there's a really good chance it's going to get missed anyway. So your best move is to just try to imagine that every student in your classroom potentially has some mental health challenge that they're struggling with. Because one, that's part of being a teenager anyway. But two, you are seeing whatever they're able to give as their best face. Even if you're seeing frustration, meltdowns, anger. But there are also challenges to the kids in your classroom who seem to be the perfect student, the high achiever, the one who gets really, really anxious if they think they didn't do their homework perfectly. They need that level of support too. And the best way you can do that then is to help support authentic coping mechanisms in your classroom, not just the behavior management stuff that you were trained. One of the things that I recommend to people, whether it's at home or in a school environment, is something like a STEM basket. This is my personal STEM basket. It has my favorite little fidgety stuff in it. I like fuzzy stuff. I like nature stuff. I got seashells in here. I've got my ear guards. That can even be helpful in a classroom situation. You would not believe how stressful 40% amped up buzzing fluorescent lights can be, simply as something you have to endure through the day. Sometimes when your students go to lunch, go take a break, have a social hall break, and they come back and all of a sudden a kid's good day has just gone over a cliff. They're gonna need to move, to stim, to fidget, to not be looking at you, to be doodling. Make that okay. I know there have to be limits on it so that it's not a distraction, but helping them to learn to be authentic in whatever way is the best help that you can be for them.
I think one of the most important things you can do is give your child agency. Certainly help them connect with appropriate mental health support services, a psychologist, psychiatrist, etc. But ultimately, let them decide what works for them and understand that it may take a little while. Help them connect with the autistic community. They're not alone.
We may come home and we may completely lose it. We may seem like we just have no patience and we're snappy, but you have no idea what we're going through day to day at school. It is so hard to be a young adult on the spectrum, dealing with the things that we deal with. I myself was undiagnosed, and so I had a really hard time at school, a really hard time around friends, and because I just never understood why I was so different. And it's great that my parents now know that it was never them. I was never annoyed with them. I was never hateful or angry at them. I was just really, really frustrated and scared and lashing out at the people that I was closest to, and that just happened to be my parents or my siblings. And it didn't mean that I loved them any less. So please just try to remember that it's not you, and try to put yourself in our shoes and remember everything that we go through.
Autistic individuals are just as likely as others to experience anxiety and depression. Studies show that autistic people are more likely to be on the LGBTIQA spectrum. Growing up, not only did I struggle with the feeling that I was always different from others, I was trying to figure out my sexual and gender identity. I was trying so hard to find a label to fit me. It led to depression and anxiety around how I would fit in, what my family would think, and if they would even accept me. Years later, I developed an eating disorder, a reminder that mental illness affects people of all ages, even after I thought I was okay. And for 10 years, I suffered, often without support with my mental health. I want parents to know that your child being gay or non-binary or trans is okay. They're okay, and you'll be okay too. Your child just needs love and support, and the rest will fall into.
In the most aggravating moments of parenting, it can be hard to stay anchored to all of the intellectual stuff that we know. And so the most important thing to remember is how hard your autistic kids are trying at every given moment, even when it's looking like an absolute disaster. We have such a difficult time sometimes recognizing our own feelings, identifying our own triggers when they happen. Sometimes even being in touch with the physicality of our bodies, not realizing that we're in clothing that's causing an irritation and a tension, and we don't know why, and then all of a sudden we're flying into some emotional rage that doesn't even make any sense. But in those moments, we're still trying very hard. It's just so easy to get overwhelmed. And I think then that the best way to be able to help deal with this is, again, to support that authentic self-identity. That it's okay. Meltdowns happen, overwhelm happens, sensory issues happen. It's okay to stim, it's okay to sing, it's okay to dance, to jump. It's okay to not always be in control.
I want you to realize that whether your child has mental health challenges or not does not mean that they are any less of a person. You already know they're autistic. You've already kind of had to deal, as it were, with that label. You might be autistic yourself and you might just be coming to terms with that. And it's all really challenging right now, I get that. But just because their life might be a little bit harder, or they might need some additional support or encouragement or psychological help from a professional, doesn't mean that their life isn't going to be worth anything. So please remember that and just try to support them as best as you can and get them those interventions as quickly as you possibly can.
I went through so many years of psychologists and psychiatrists diagnosing me with what they knew. Borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, attachment disorder. I was given medication for symptoms that didn't actually exist. When one therapist mentioned I might be autistic, I looked into it, and more so how it affected females. And there it was, me. My autistic identity explains to me why I am who I am, and that creates a sense of belonging both within myself and within my community. I no longer think of fidgeting and chewing as boredom, but rather self-regulation. Crying over routine changes as dramatic, but instead an explanation of my need for structure and sameness. And eating the same food over and over isn't being fussy, but rather an item of comfort. Being autistic and proud to be autistic has finally allowed me to be happy in my skin and who I am.
Having a positive autistic identity has helped my mental health tremendously because now I don't look at myself as broken. I don't look at myself as this person who needs to be something else. I'm not constantly striving to fix myself anymore. I'm just being me, my whole autistic self. And I found people just like me out there through social media and through my community. Now that I know that I'm autistic, and having the positive identity with that has just made a world of difference for me.
As soon as you realize that being autistic is not a bad thing and that neurodiversity is actually really exciting, you all of a sudden open yourself not only to all these other people who are also neurodiverse and special in their own way, but you start to put less pressure on yourself. And then you express less energy just being. So you can actually spend your energy on things that really make you happy, like spending time by yourself reading, or for me, being with my animals, or taking yourself off into the countryside, whatever that is that works for you. when you're masking, you use up so much energy. And so just being authentic and being brave about it and saying, hey, look, this is me. I'm autistic, and that's okay. I love me. And if you've got a problem with that, then actually that says a lot more about you than it does me. So less energy spent, masking and trying to please other people means that you're happier and healthier. And in the long term, you can deal with the challenges that life will ultimately throw at you as an autistic woman.
For me, in terms of just forming connections with other people, and also helping me to just notice in the rest of my life when I meet those sort of people where I go, I think you're one of my people, and just learning that these people are just wonderful, and absolutely we should just treasure them and enjoy their company as much as possible, because again, it's those kind of relationships that don't drain the life out of us, that really enhance our lives and really enhance my life and make things worth living.
I think one of the biggest things that the autistic community has taught me is the power of language. When I was first diagnosed, I referred to myself as having Asperger's syndrome, because that's how it was, taught to me. And through speaking to other neurodiverse autistic individuals, they taught me that actually autism, being autistic, is just a way of life. It's not a diagnosis that we carry around in a suitcase, and it's not about being high functioning or low functioning. You just are. We just are. We have different brains to people who are not autistic. And while we still might use terms like being on the spectrum colloquially, we're not standing on a rainbow. We're just living our lives as we are. And it is not our condition of autism that disables us. It's the environment that we are forced to live in. We can get that environment changed or adapted slightly, then ultimately that disability dissipates. And so that proud autistic identity that I've got now has really helped me kind of awaken to that and recognize the good things that being autistic brings.
For me personally, the online autistic community, including Yellow Ladybugs, they have been one of my saved sites for ages. It has been such a huge support to me in being able to help me recover my own identity as an autistic woman, to get rid of the layers of masking, to figure out who I was, who I am, and that who I am is okay. And that has been so incredible. And being connected to groups like Yellow Ladybug and the other autistic advocates who are out there talking about masking, late diagnosis, self-identification, they help me feel like I'm part of something bigger, which I am. And I want to give something back as well. I want to be a voice as well to help, so that the other girls and women and everyone don't have to wait until they're 51 to figure out who they really are. I don't want them to have to wait until they're 30 or 20. Things need to start changing. And I think a lot of it also comes with not just changing the community at large in the diagnostic system, but with self-acceptance.
Yeah, I didn't get to be involved in any groups till I was 18, and I joined the Treehouse in Geelong, where I met a group of people my age or younger and older, who are now some of my closest friends, and just make me feel welcome and that we're not alone in this world and that we have each other to lean on if we need to.
I'm actively involved with Interchange Arteries. I started volunteering in 2011, later becoming a support worker. Since being diagnosed, I began working to put more support in place for autistic individuals, especially women and those who identify as female. working alongside other autistic individuals who work there. The best part, being a disability organisation, I'm not treated any differently for being me, and small accommodations, such as being able to work from home, have been made to help better support me. I've been asked to be part of an autism camp, and while I wish this was something that was around when I was younger, I'm so glad there are autistic people out there today putting these things together so others are able to feel supported within their community, so they can find their tribe.